Mahalo lele, and welcome everyone to another live digital Kava session here on the Polynesian Eyes podcast. As always, how's it going in your neck of the woods, Mr. Atearoa?
We're doing well, Tua, here in Manurewa, South Auckland side. A bit overcast, getting colder every day. But it's still relatively nice now. It starts really getting pretty cold here in New Zealand, especially when you around June, May, late May, June. So we're getting there. The end of April. Oh, and also, it's Easter week here in New Zealand. We're celebrating, so we had the day off for Friday, and we'll have the day off tomorrow for Monday. It's Sunday here, so happy Easter to all the viewers out there. And yeah, Dua, that's kind of the weather and the update from my side. My side. How about you?
As for me, I luckily we're able to have this live because I made it back to San Antonio, Texas at 1 o'clock in the morning today.
Mm,
And was initially planning to just spend the weekend in Las Vegas. I spent the majority of the week in Reno, Nevada. It's a lot cooler over there. There's still some snow on the mountains
wow.
over there in
Okay.
Reno. So spent most of my time there. Had a last minute opportunity to come home, so we take every opportunity we can to come home, and that allows us to do the live digital Kava session here tonight. And pretty excited and pretty grateful we were able to make it. We have a fun handful of topics we were
Mm,
curating just before we started,
mm.
but we already have some comments here in the comment section. Polynesian
Polynesian
Prince
Prince.
Malo, he says
Sh-
Kautama Malo, absolutely.
Malo. Malo
Poly
for joining us,
Prince,
Polynesian. Poly Prince.
welcome. He says Malo for the content I get to use on TikTok, 100%. Really
Mm,
appreciate it. I think yours is the 2E account in there. Really appreciate it. It's been a good stuff and appreciate
mm.
that and glad that that helps you give some content as well. T
Nice.
says Malo Taulava. Welcome,
Hey,
welcome.
Malo. Malo.
T's straight to the point. I be tired of all these Tuna and Fata spinoffs, and I always see what's the chance. And actually, that's something I want to. Maybe that'll be our impromptu topic, Masi, since
Yeah.
the Tease brings this up.
All right. All
Let,
right,
let's
T.
let's
Starting us
visit
off.
because yes, let's go off of that topic from Tease here because we see a lot of comments online of quote unquote Tuitonga occupation and how this, basically it's sold to us like it's the 300 Spartans who fought off Talakai Faiki and his warriors, and how it was some massive battle of liberation.
Mm.
What are your kind of thoughts on that, Mussy? What was this some real heavy duty, you know, give us free from Amistad, or William
Yeah.
Wallace from Scotland, where we're talking about generations of fighting? Like what's your perspective on this point that the Tu'imanua Empire is built off of this, and Ha'amoa is its own self-governing
Yeah.
empire? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think we kind of touched on it too, and I'll just reiterate because it is an important part of the Polynesian history. Right. To me, I interpret that event as a scuffle, to a kind of like a scuffle like happened in Velata. I'm leaning towards that. It wasn't like a full-on battle that Tupo the first, right, kind of took the reign and kind of established, all right, I'm in charge. It was just a little scuffle of two parties having a go at it for that day. The Tuna and Fata impressed the Tuitonga, because I think we kind of mentioned it. It was only a certain part of Ha'amoa, because you're talking about a lot of other higher chiefs in Ha'amoa during that time that were married, or their daughters were married to the Tuitonga family, that would, if you put effort into it, it wasn't like a whole unification of Samoa, like
Mm-mm.
Upolu and Savai'i, to go against the Tuitonga, because what's our reason for this? Because after that event, what happens? I think it's Kaulufonua Fekai that moves his residence and builds that in Palauli in Savai'i, his kind of residence or his place where he kind of, let's just say, commanded his his reign or empire at Savai'i, and he was there for 5 generations. So to me, it was a little scuffle, and the Tuitonga was impressed because apparently, with the Talagai Faiki during that time, maybe some that party that he was bullying or maybe gave too much orders or whatever, being being unfair to that a certain group within that part of Ha'amoa, and they rebelled, and he found, oh, they at least fight back. These people fight back, and I'm impressed. But he came back again. But not only that, his descendant came back and stayed there for 5 generations. So you know that's just my interpretation of how the event happened in Ha'amoa. I don't know if you had anything different, Tua, or to add on. What's your thoughts?
No, 100%. And let's kind of just step back and think a little logically, right? Sometimes we get a little too excited with, oh yeah, Tuna and Fata, and they fought, right? You mentioned one of them, okay? The Tu'itonga, because they present it as Tu'itonga occupation, right?
Yeah.
That automatically assumes that Ha'amoa as a nation or a self-governing body was separate. This was all
Mm.
part of
Yes.
the empire, right? Like this is like two villages next to each other
Mm.
competing, right? And one village saying, "Oh yeah, we're our own country." It's like, yeah, no, we're on the same island. We're not
Yeah.
like this separate thing. So
Mm.
this idea that there was Tu'itonga, occupation, it's all based off of the concept of that Tu'imanua had an empire, which we question very heavily, right? You have to accept that reality in order for the quote unquote Tu'itonga occupation to happen. Another one is like you're saying, the Tu'itonga has loyalists
Mm.
throughout Ha'amoa,
Yeah.
right? And from the best sources we can see, this was almost like a one-time little scuffle, like you're saying. We're not
Mm.
talking about full-blown war,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it happens relatively quickly within a short period of time. They wait until all the festivities are in full flow. People
Yes.
probably been drinking kava for who knows
Yeah.
how long, right?
Hmm.
They're bringing in the puaka toho and everything.
Food
It's
and
a
everything. Yeah.
it's a sneak attack for all intents and purposes,
Yes. Yes.
right? It's a sneak attack. And then, the Tu'itonga is just there with his entourage. He's not there
Yeah.
with an army,
Mm.
right? He's not there, quote unquote, with this huge army. He's there with an entourage. So we're,
Mm.
we're saying maybe a couple hundred people.
Mm.
And he's there, and it sounds like thousands of people are there in Ha'amoa because you're doing
Mm.
festivities, you're
Mm.
doing all this stuff that's going on. And there's this whole quote unquote scuffle. And just think of the name that comes out, the title that comes out of this.
Yeah.
Marietoa. That
Yeah.
sounds to me like someone saying, "Oh, good job. You stood up for yourselves."
Yeah.
Okay, I can respect that. Maybe, I'm proud of you guys. Maybe, I
Mm.
recognize that. Does that sound like someone who's threatened by
No.
this? Does this sound like someone who's like, "Oh my gosh, this is a full-blown rebellion. I've lost control over this."
Mm.
Right?
Mm.
And this is a very different mentality. Do you remember when we listened to Kava University's commentary of when Ulukalala and his brother, was it Tuponiwa, they go and they kill the
Tuguaho.
Tuguaho?
Yeah.
Do you remember what they did to everyone in that house? Wipe them out.
Wipe them out. Yeah. Yeah.
Men, women, children. Everything has to be wiped
Because
out.
it becomes back and forth, and it.
Yes,
Yes.
it's trying to make a clean cut. It's like when you cut someone's heads off, you just trying to make a clean cut. If you wanted to get rid of the Tu'itonga, what's the best thing you could have done? killed him right then and there,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
There's a decent argument to say that they knew that that would have been a fatal mistake,
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
right? Because if
Mm.
if they killed the Tu'itonga, what would have happened? What Kaulu Fonua Fekai did to the
Yes.
assassins of the Tu'itonga, he would have tracked them down,
And
brought them to Tonga, knock
yeah,
out all their teeth,
and
make them
eat.
chew the kava,
Yeah.
right?
And probably eat them after.
And then yeah, so this is the kind of thing. To me,
Yeah.
there's a lot of question marks, and then there's also some oral history that says that Tuna and Fata didn't even grow up
I
in
did see about
Ha'amoa.
that.
They're
Like
like from
Tuvalu.
Tuvalu or Tokelau or something like that. That they came from there.
Interesting.
So and then there's that whole situation that you're talking about, and even his last words, he says, "Marietoa, when I return, I will not return as a foe, but as a friend."
Mm,
Right?
mm,
He even Talakai Faiki was never thinking, "Oh my gosh, I just lost
yeah.
Hotboy." No, he's just like, "Okay, all right, guys.
You guys got me this one, you know.
Hey, yeah, good job, but you didn't. It's not like you're a threat to me. I'll be
No.
back."
Mm,
And so that's another interesting thing to me is that whole concept. So this is the reason why, and I jokingly say it, but I also think it's very important. This is why in Ha'amua they have a whole, and I didn't know this until we did that study, Masi.
yeah.
They have a whole legal system to address oral history, especially for
Mm,
disputes of land.
land. Yeah. Disputes
Eh?
of land. Yeah.
Apparently, and we all know this, the stories tend to grow, and sometimes stories are made up for the fact of political land issues, whatever it is, personal. You
Mm,
wanna you wanna
big.
cause issues for someone, you make that happen. But that's something that we address many times, and like Masi said, kaulfo nuofekai. Oh, the other thing that's interesting, when we spoke with Xiaoxi Ilayu, he says that possibly the reason why there was a dispute, it was a religious one.
Could be.
Could
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
Talakai Faiki wanted to impose Hikureo as the
Mm,
god instead of Tangaloa, and there was opposition to that in Hamo. So there's some reasons for it, but let's not make this sound like William Wallace defeating the English and independence given. I think that's a stretch, little bit of a
mm.
stretch. Couple
But
more
good
comments.
discussion, eh? Good discussion.
Masi, what up, bears? Puff, puff, pass with you and your blah, blah.
Water Bears, good to have you, man.
Hey,
Good
hey,
to have you.
welcome, welcome, Water Bears. Always a pleasure. T Style, welcome, welcome. He says, Te upalu taufua maipe, malo T Style.
My dear, good to have you,
We
T Style.
we wouldn't expect anything less. Anything less.
Mm.
Hey, Seyo, I don't think I've heard you on the program before, so welcome, welcome. Masi, you want to
Welcome.
read this question and take a shot at it?
Let's go. So Seo comments here. Quick question: was there a Ha'a Tangaloa, Ha'a Maui in Tonga, and what year? So yes, the Ha'a Tangaloa and the Ha'a Maui are considered the founding fathers of Polynesia that came to Tonga. Ha'a Tangaloa were, let's just say, they were the masters of structuring government or structuring the political aspect of the Polynesian nation, and the Ha'a Maui, they were the masters, kind of like the masters navigators of the seas using the astronomical knowledge of the stars. The astronomy and knowledge of that. So that's my understanding. And they arrived together along with the Ha'kaula that kind of settled and were the caretakers of the Pulotu on the west side. So just in particular, Sale, the timeline, it keeps pushing the timeline a lot further with some recent data points with how far Tonga is, but I can the specific spots of where the settlements came, or these ha'as kind of settled. The Ha'ataula, where the priests, they settled on the western side of Tongatapu. The Ha'atangaloa was in that. central part of like Folaha and even parts of like Nuku'alofa, that central part right there up to Toloa, and then the eastern side was the Maui, kind of Lalofonua or Lolofonua, kind of where they settle in the eastern part of Tongatapu, where the Ha'amonga is at, because its full name is Ha'amonga o Maui. So that's just my addition. Unless you have anything, Dua, are you different
No,
in that?
I'm pretty aligned on that. I think the only things I would add is, we keep looking. That's the one thing that's interesting about Tongatapu. The more they dig into some of the ruins, like Masi was saying, it goes further and further. So, according to Tevita Fale, Etu was in the 400 AD, and that's the latest, right? I mean,
Mm,
there could be more Tuitongas there that pushes Etu, and including the findings seem to push Etu possibly to
BC.
like, yes, the BC, early BCs. So if we're looking at the Tangaloa and the Maui, it could be 100, who knows, maybe thousands of years before
Mm,
that.
mm.
Another interesting thing, Masi, I think we covered on one of the videos, a guy looked at weathering patterns for like
Yes,
limestone,
yes.
and he looked at the Ha'amonga Maui and looking at the gaps and the weathering that's happened
Mm.
on the
Ha'amonga.
Ha'amonga. He goes, dude, when you do the calculation of natural weathering
Mm.
of limestone, he says this is anywhere between, possibly, who knows, this, we're just throwing this out there, he says between 10,000 and 50,000 years ago.
Yeah, which is a different assessment compared to carbon dating. So it was just
Yes.
what he provided with the coral rocks, and also I'm also aligned with the 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 knowledge of Tonga, the first people when they were sailing to find Tonga in Ata, because I know some people are thinking Ata was the first place, Atata, which is they think is in the Nuku'alofa. There's an island on top of
Mm-hmm.
Nuku'alofa that Ata was there, but Ata Tevita Fale, and I agree with him. Ata at the bottom where there used to be settlement on the kind of past, I think past Ewa, in the southern part of Tongatapu, and then they from there settled there before they made their way back up to Tongatapu, which is I think Hakula is the name, which is the kind of the eastern back part of Tongatapu, where they kind of start.
Yes.
And then the Ha'a Tangaloa, Ha'a Maui, and the Ha'a Taula kind of spread it out and established their settlement there and creating the Polynesian nation. So yeah, I just want to add that in there.
Malo, malo. Couple more comments. Says
Hey, Brown
Brown
Monk,
Monk.
Malo, Malo Tau.
Malo, appreciate it. Hope all is good in your neck of the woods. So, with that being said, um, we did come across some interesting videos the last few days with Her Royal Majesty uh, Pilolevu sharing, some snippets of her speech that she gave to, I think, Tonga National University
Okay.
students
Mm,
a couple weeks ago, I want to say, and gave some interesting comments and thoughts. So thought we would do some commentary on her remarks,
all
and we'll
right.
go from there.
Kula mai ham ai fu lai mata ya ko ne puna ke pe hama mu ya pe kita hate lai mata
Ciao Hede, yeah.
Yeah.
pe mo Beyonce e ko ne hi vai ya ko fe fine u show fe kita wai tonga ko ta wa fa tanga we ko fiela ka fihia ma mo tu apalangi te lai mata na e we friendly island ya ko hingoa ya o pangai hapai na ka ke hinga ki tonga mo la mo niwa mo ewa mo ka neongo ya o ku ika ke tala ta tolke ka folau eva the whole of Tonga ko friendly islands o ia fare
So
ko na
so
ko
so
molisti
Pilolevu is saying Tua. Pilolevu is saying that only Ha'apai should only have the name Friendly Islands. The rest of Tonga Wangakovi pe. Eh? Is that what she's saying to
That's
all?
one way
What do you
to
think?
interpret it.
Eh?
That's one way to interpret it, right? So
Yeah.
so I think this video is the highlights, right? And we'll go
Mm,
into smaller segments, but I thought, I mean, one thing that I've noticed, Masi, at least the last 5 to 8 years,
mhm,
there seems to be a shift in the leadership of the royal family. They are, back in the day, it was always about being proper, following protocol, which is still important.
stay, yeah, stay out of the scene. There's no really too much
Yes.
public showing.
And always keeping things formal. I'm seeing like a lot more accessibility to the people, right?
Mm,
Like this kind of speech and just the tone of the speech, right?
yes.
I mean, growing up in Tonga, no one would ever expect one of the royal family to speak this way.
Mm,
It was always very formal, right?
mm,
Like none of this. Like this is interesting to me, right?
mm,
Because we've talked about this before. You have to adopt your strategy to the time, the need, and the
mm,
place. That's how the Polynesian Empire was, that this portion of the Polynesian Empire was able to survive
mm,
colonization. You
mm,
recognize the environment you find yourself as a leader. You have to figure out how to adapt to best lead, right? This is a leadership skill. It's
yeah.
having vision, it's understanding what the need is and how to properly lead. And I see this shift across the entire royal family, and it seems like they're saying, "Hey, we now know that in the modern day, to keep the kingdom together, the leadership that's needed is not to be isolated, right? Because there's a lot of opponents of the royal family. There's a lot
Correct.
of opponents politically of this family that's leading the country. And the strategy is right now, from what I can see, is more access to the people, being more authentic with the people, not pushing isolation, not pushing overly formal or some of the protocols in the past. Granted, they still follow some of the major ones, but
Yeah.
in the personal interactions, it shifted quite a bit. Any kind of thoughts on that, or if you've seen that at all, just from some of the social media? I find it a little interesting that there's been this shift.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, Tua. And it's also with the. I think it's just the time. I think Tongan now, especially the youth, they need a lot more. They need a lot more interactions and an understanding of what to of how to navigate life and what to see and expect some challenges that may come their way. And sometimes
Mm.
this kind of talking helps that's the thing, right? To what you were mentioning, the vision of the royal family as a whole, to see that some people need some tailoring around. I always compare it to like sometimes Polynesian parents, especially like maybe Tongans and Samoans, a lot of the parenting that happens with their kids is more of just observe and it's one way instruction. It's a very different to like give you instructions of like, no, do it this step. Step by step. It's almost like just watch me do it. Now you should be able to learn,
That's the
know how to
old
do it.
school way. Yeah.
That's the old school, right? This is the old school, and the royal family. Let's just say the royal family was doing like the old school way. You observe how they carry themselves, and that's the expectation you should follow. But right now, there's a lot more, speaking and in the same level, speaking to help the mass understand that maybe some things we can do better, things to look out for, and it's like certain step. It's like a certain step of instructions, which is a lot different back in the days. But those, like I said, Dua, those are the things of adapt adapting to the new way of people, of how they're viewing the world and how they interact with each other and with the world, because technology has actually changed how we interact and how we take in information. So this is just one way of helping us to navigate some of the chaos, because it's a lot of the information that comes to people is bombarded because we have it in the instantly from our phone. So it's just part of the new way, and I think it's good, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that she's giving some interesting insight, right? Like she's talking about Beyonce and the big eyelashes and all the bling bling and stuff. And what she's saying is, hey, we know that that's part of life. We see those things, but it's also understanding there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing of something. Wisdom is knowing how to apply that knowledge. Just because you see Beyonce doing it, you should be like, well, that's Beyonce. That's that kind of culture and approach. That's not necessarily what we bring to the table that makes us unique. And if you go and try and be Beyonce, well, who's going to be Tongan, right? If you're going to chase that kind of thing, well, then you're giving away what's more valuable. And what's more valuable? A civilization that's been around for thousands of years, a culture that has lasted the test of time for so long, and something that the Western world is dying for right now, at least from my perspective, right? You look at the Western world, it is dying. And
losing its identity every day.
Exactly. And what she's saying is, hey, Beyonce, but that's not us. Let's not give away who we are as a people to chase something that's a little flashy. So it's kind of interesting. So let's see what else is in the highlights here.
Okay.
Na farikologo molis. Panahange pa fo ng aspo hasima na ito uya itahi. Pea mauhao ay to valu kog mautolo. Pag mauki office tak mamata ko e fua Tonga Visitors Bureau yai e pure anga ko enye ene afio moho eki. Na ha wiki Tonga na osteau tupuya. Na ia e ta ai uahe ni ihi na ko va meri stima e tolu na e tau he loto pe na tau fetongi pe he ha ko ke wafu. Ko taimia ko ia na e ha we vaka meri stima ni lahe o ma mohe Tongan toki alu pe he o no heng hene a. Tau ki ai pe whaka amu e kutui e toi hoko pe ai ngai taimi whainga maari e ko ia. E kawa airportia he launga I lahi mai. Ko en bete tala at mahal pe os mahino ka ki mo tolu. Ko e pe setia ni manoa o e tau kau folau e ewa ki Tonga ni. Ko returning Tongans. Ko kakai Tonga no foi ai muri. Pak nau foki mai nau tolu e ki Tongan folau ewa. Pak tola nau tolu ka ki mai nau tolu o nof mo nau family. Fu efi pasi si. O na tolu nof he hotere. Mo tere guest house. O na wo kai he ufare kai hu whanga whakatapu. Ka ngā e peharea whakai ono pon ke mahino kak motor. E nau mau e nau toria ai ulunganga o tourist pe koe visitor. Ka koe haere tau mea tau toi tongani uwhai him taitari ak nau tolo. Not very good. Koe uhi, ko tau tolo, ko tau sioga ke palangi, mo sioga ke siaina, mo sioga ke Asia. Oh, sai pe. Ko tokanga mai he tipi I tau tolo. Ko tau sio pe katonga. Masi, e kau fie palangi ne.
Very true.
O e sio ki he lanu e kiri. Sio ki tak he seniti koe e wahe a koe ki. Tongi.
She mentions in this speech, it's not in here, sorry, that there's other clips that are longer, but 50% of the tourism spend
It's just
returning Tongans. Remember, Masi, we had this conversation, right? The Tongan government from this digital Kava session discussion in the past focus on the Tongans overseas. I think this is not just for Tonga. I think for Ha'amoa, I think for Fiji, I think for all of the Pacific and Polynesia, they need to focus on helping and harnessing the financial opportunity that the Tongans overseas are bringing back. It's a no-brainer, right? But unfortunately, what does our government and our leadership today say? Oh, we need to go and make sure all the. I'm not saying don't invite foreigners.
Yeah.
Great. But there's a lot of financial opportunity with the existing diaspora that will have huge impact. I think a couple episodes ago, we watched a video where they had the government summit
Yes.
in Tonga, and they had a couple speakers that were like, we are foreign Tongans living overseas. We want to take our retirement fund. We want to
Correct.
bring all of that.
Invest in Tonga. Yes.
Invest in Tonga, but we can't figure out a way to do it. Right?
Yeah.
And I think it's because the government is so busy trying to nail these quote unquote big deals, right? Like heavy hitters, heavy investors. They don't even see the opportunity right in front of them. It's like what she's describing, basically what she's describing with the little person selling at the market, how a Tongan from overseas, oh, whatever, not realizing that one Tongan spends as much as the next 4 Chinese or 4 Europeans in Tonga.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just some thoughts there, Mussy. Anything to add?
Yeah. No. That's an important issue to address, especially, and I'm glad. See, and this to me, it just speaks volumes that look at Princess Pilolevu, man. She's understanding the ground level what's going on with Tonga. So to me, this is a big deal because she's involved, and that shows the people that she's involved in understanding what's going on in the ground level to help the people, and what she can do with her position to let the people living in Tonga, let them know that these are some of the issues and we can do better. So to me, that's a big thing, because there's some people who think a royalty just don't. They're not understanding the issues people are facing
Everyday issues
every day, because they're in a different position. Just shows you, these are kakai ofa, and they're wanting to do better and see Tonga doing better. And I'm gonna just touch on what she mentioned before. I guess there was a time that there was 3 wakamedi. She was saying that they would change, rotate. See, right now they only do one
every what? Every few weeks, every few months, or what?
Yeah. So it looks like Tonga is capable from the back, from our ancestors that have passed, that we were doing a lot better than what we're doing now. So it just shows you and this is the blame is actually sometimes on the people too, because at the same time they elect they're electing the people to represent them, maybe not on the right basis, but it just shows you people are there. The Tongan people are there for the blame, because they're the ones electing their people's representative to get in there. Because look, under the government of the king, things were Tonga was prosperous, and since 2010, since 2010 till now, and the government has been headed by the people who elect their officials, things have been chaotic, to say the least. But that's just some of the things I picked out, Tua, from listening to Pilolevu's speech.
Not 100%. Let's give the princess some more time.
All right.
Ke nau kata ke o tape nau tapa i ngā tū ke asiai pe mātanga ko nau tuuai. Ai oku exclusive. E kaireu ke toi lava o whakatau a tapa i ngā tuia o asiai ai blowholes, pe koe flying fox, pe koe ancient royal tombs, koe lapaha i koloni. Koe uwheitu mātanga pe koe ia. Ai la varewa ki hiki hake totongia u mātanga. Tau o tatolo tori. Tuku tak mamata e whakahela ia pau ki toi o ako certificate mo e hāfua. Koe whakahame ai mamanu e sai e whai ngofua. Koe mea katoa pe mamanu u mahu inga o ngā wei pe whai ngata. Vari
Any thoughts on that, Mas? Is that me making noise?
Yeah, I hear the NRL There we go. There we go.
There we go. Okay.
No, I'm just thinking. She's probably absolutely right. I mean, I don't have any problem with the Tori. People seeing the opportunities they can get from there, and you also learn some good skills, in my opinion, working in the Tori because you use some heavy machine and stuff. So there's some good skills that you can get from there. But I think she does address that the popular tourist spots like she mentioned in the Langis in Mua, La Paja, and the Ha'amonga stuff. We can do a lot to upgrade those areas, and then and that's the thing, right? What she meant, you got to ngawe'i, and you in order to do an up, and they always say langa fonua, to build your country or your village. It takes some work, and hopefully, and this is the thing. To me, it's two ways. The people are willing to do the work as long as the government makes it easier. The government of Tonga makes it easier for them to get access to that, whatever certificate or access to build a business, or even like allow transportation if for tourists who want a tour bus and some more further hospitality that can happen during those tours. But um, that's what I'm thinking. Tua. There's two ways to that because the Tori um, provides opportunity to learn new skills and go to new land, but also maybe the government of Tonga making that pathway easier for the people because there's people in Tonga that don't want to go overseas and work six
Hmm.
months. That's the bad thing, right? When you do the Tori, you're 6 months away from your family and stuff, and that's not easy. So there's people willing to stay there, but if you give them the Tori the only option, and it's easy to get that done because the overseas company that funds that and pays for your whole stay, that's an easier thing to do and get paid well than getting somewhere to get certificate, and then once you do that, there's no infrastructure that the government has allowed for you to build a tourism business in Tonga. That's just me. I don't know what if there's anything else, Tua,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
think
I
of.
mean, there's one more video I think that she touched on a little bit, but to me, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too simple of a brain. Maybe I'm not educated like some of the doctors that are leading in Tonga right now. But it is the small and simple things that make the biggest difference. And like you were mentioning,
Mm,
roads, infrastructure,
mm,
wharfs, these little things. Like I look at it this way a little bit. They're also concerned, at least from what I can see, and this is based off of what we see on social media and the news. They're all talking about building these huge infrastructure projects. Oh, we need to improve the wharf, right?
what's that lady? That lady that runs her shipping
Tuna.
business. They build a new wharf, brand new, and they've been using it for parties. And here she is as a business owner trying to load their boxes and goods to their boats and not using the facility
Yeah.
because it's being used for a party event.
Yeah. And then they add metal along the edges, which cuts the ropes for her ships. And apparently only her boats could access it. And they were thinking about these bigger ships and stuff. See, this is what I'm talking about, Masi. When you think about these quote unquote mega projects, you will be blown away how much detail it takes to get it right.
Mhm.
And I don't think we're there yet in our people. And what I'm trying to say is I'm not saying that we can't get there. You know what you need before you get a giant wharf? You need a bunch of little ones. You
Mm.
need to take care of the local fishermen's needs. You need to take care of the local farmers' needs. You build it from there. That's where you need to build. The problem is we're getting all the negatives of quote unquote government and not getting the benefits of it. And this is what I mean by it. They go and want to, get this huge project to build this huge wharf.
Mm.
And who does it really help? It only helps the guy who got involved in it and who can say, oh, look at what we built. But
Yeah.
improving the everyday life of a local Tongan? How did it improve the daily life of the average Tongan? Little to no impact.
Mm.
Right? This is why I really appreciated Tuyo Netoa, his government.
Mm.
It's, and it's just kind of sad that it just kind of happened on the tail end of his leadership. All the little wharfs and the little improvements that they did, that directly impacts the everyday citizen. And you know what happens?
Mm.
Their productivity goes up.
Yes.
When the fishermen can, get on these little wharfs, get on his boat, unload larger quantities of product, he's spending less time, from what my understanding is, hours to get on the boat, go out, then hours to get off and take off cargo. And sometimes the weather is bad, sometimes these guys have family obligations. If you can, those hours that would have been spent just getting in and out of the boat is spent out fishing, the product output is multiplied. Now, when you have that, then all of a sudden there's more cash flow, there's more productivity in the economy. Then all of a sudden there are resources to invest in the local economy. You have to have productivity. I'll never forget this. Sitting with a CFO in Fiji when I was working on a startup, and we were, it kind of got to a point, I guess we were a little arguing a little bit with this CFO. A brand new bank in Fiji had just got set. I'm sitting there with their CFO, their CEO, and we were making our sell pitch that our startup was going to help improve the quality of living, right? And the standard of living for local citizens. And I asked the CFO, what do you think will increase the standard of living for the average Fijian? And his answer was a bank account. And I said, if it was that easy, why don't you issue everyone in Fiji a bank account, and then all of a sudden there's no more poverty?
Yeah.
Right? That doesn't make sense. But you have certain people in leadership that's what they think, right? Because they got that idea from their college degree, but they aren't looking from the ground up. Or how can I help the everyday citizen? And if you do that, you will build to these bigger things. That is kind of like what I am envisioning when we're talking about when we get back to those Vakameiris back then.
Yeah.
The sounds like to me, like in the 70s, there were multiple ways that the average Tongan could get cash.
Yeah.
Copra, bananas, right? There was a lot of productivity that they could do on themselves as an individual to build up that money, which led to more opportunities to facilitate visitors coming. And unfortunately, I think we've lacked the vision to think simple in order to achieve great things. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on that, Masi.
No, nice. No, I like it, and I agree.
Let me see here. Let's go to our next topic. We'll jump into the next one. This one, Masi, give a summary of what you understand of what happened here before I pull up the first video on Nico.
Let's go. All right. So Nico Iamaleava, he's a high prospect recruit that started for the University of Tennessee this past year. He did pretty well for his first career start, I believe. He got his team to the top 12 out of 132 universities that compete in football. Tua, is that correct? Division 1. So, make it to the top 12. That was big deal. The word that's out there that he was getting paid $2 million for that same year, and they were just going to renew him to carry on for this second career start or season start for him at the University of Tennessee. He didn't agree with it, so there's this opportunity that college players can enter a portal to go to another university. And I did hear some talks that he transferred to UCLA, but then I've heard some recent comments that that's not finalized yet, and apparently he is still in the portal, but I'm not too sure. That's kind of where we're at with Nico Iamaleava to us. So did I miss any major timeline there with Nico?
No, that sounds pretty. Here's what I've kind of heard that. Oh, hold on. I don't know what's going on in the background here. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Because I'm just
We're having
thinking.
some technical difficulties here.
No worries. No worries.
Okay.
No, cause, yeah, because I'm thinking. This is kind of the new age of college football players.
Uh-huh.
In this time that they can transfer to between schools depending on the neo name, image, and likeness that they can get from each university. So that's kind of where we're at with him at the moment. So I think it was like a stalemate, and then he was saying he was willing to walk out if they weren't going to increase his payment, and then the university said no, we're sticking to the same. So yeah, the looks like the university's moved on, and he's moved on
Yes.
too.
I'm trying to see here. I don't know why this is acting up the way it's acting up. Um, I'm trying to see. I'm trying to open up TikTok. Maybe it's because the China is not very happy with Uncle Donald, but it's like I open it up and it ends up like having like dual sounds in it. So we may just skip the videos on TikTok here. But yeah, it sounds like, and I don't know if you've heard the drama about this, Masi, because the head coach came out and said it's because Nico and his family were asking for too much money.
Mm.
Like going from like 2 or 4 million to $8 million.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
Yes. And a lot of this looks like there's some interesting chat going on YouTube here, but we'll finish this segment before we address Chief's
Okay.
questions and comments here. But so it sounds like the coaches came out, University of Tennessee tried to put a blitz, and it put Nico kind of in like a bad
Name. Yeah.
name for him, right? Because it just makes him sound greedy, makes him sound like someone who's just out for the money. But there is rumors coming back that that's not really what happened. What happened was they were asking for a better O line and some changes because I didn't watch a lot of Tennessee games, but it sounded like he was running for his life many times and the O line was a weakness and they really didn't have any really top notch receivers. So it sounds like Nico's people were thinking he was carrying too much of the risk and they wanted the school to step up and improve their recruiting in certain positions. Then there was also discussion that the way the offense is set up, it doesn't help Nico shine as well. I guess Nico said that he was of the under because he was the number 2 quarterback in the nation,
Yes, he was the top.
only behind Archie Manning. Like they were number 1, number 2, but they both had 5 stars, scored 100% on all the ratings. The only real big difference probably is Archie gets the benefit of the Manning last name, right?
Yes.
Like that
Yeah,
pedigree.
carries a lot of weight. Yes.
That pedigree.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of talk now going online that Nico really wasn't the problem and that really was the coach. And so when Nico didn't show up to practice, the school took the opportunity, or the coach took the opportunity to just say, yeah, we're moving on. Nico's holding out, wants more money, blah, blah, blah. And if that's true, I think there could be a chance this turns to legal implications, in my opinion. Because if it is a lie that Nico wanted, it was all about the money and Nico wanted X, Y, and Z, the fact that the coaches came out and painted him in a negative light, that hurts his opportunity to make money, which it looks like that's what he's suffering now. A lot of schools, when they saw that, they're like, uh-oh, we don't want to touch this guy. He's a problem child.
Yeah, he can ruin the team chemistry, the locker room.
Yes.
He's gonna ruin what we have here. So it's kind of hard to get him a landing spot. Okay, that makes sense.
and
That
it's
makes
gonna
sense. So,
be yeah. Go ahead, Masi.
mm, no, I was gonna say because I haven't heard that side, but that makes sense. And man, that is it's interesting because there's everyone has an ego because the head coach is like, why do we have to change anything? We made it to the top 12. We just have to. What he's trying to say is we just need to build on what we have now, which probably Nico was not saying no. There needs some great improvement, which means a lot of changes, which the head coach is thinking. It's just thinking of the head coach is like, and he's probably thinking of his own job. He's like, we made it to the top 12. We just need some tinkering. But looks
Yeah.
like Nico and his supporters are saying, we need some major tinkering. So we'll see.
Yes. Yes. And we will see what happens here. And what's interesting is, do you remember Huja Minzara? He was the receiver for the
Yes,
Bengals.
TJ Husmanzada. Yeah.
He's come out, if I remember correctly, and was saying he's a little bit more on Nico's side.
Mm.
And then is it Kirk Herbstreit said he met Nico, says it's like he's kind of surprised by this because he said Nico is like your typical Polynesian, very, very humble, very, very kind. And this kind of seems to be outside of his character. So this is kind of interesting. But the truth is, I mean, there was a lot of money on the table, and I'm wondering if some of the accusations are not true by the Tennessee coach, and Nico loses money. I wonder how much that will impact him thinking about, okay, I lost a lot of money because I was painted incorrectly as being a greedy person and not caring about the team.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about a huge organization like the University of Tennessee. When they come
Yeah.
down on you, it's almost like you fighting the government, the U.S. government, on your own. Like that's
Yeah.
how it's a
It's
really,
influential.
yes, influential. And I'm glad things are kind of being sorted out, especially by some commentators saying that there's something that's not right here. So hopefully that can get sorted out, and Nico can kind of explain his side of the story. And to me, it would mean if Nico just has a good season, and then the Tennessee Volunteers don't have a good season, then we know who's the. It's almost like Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and like Russell
Yeah.
Wilson and what's it? What's the
Carroll.
coach that Carroll? He's with the Raiders now. It's kind of like a thing like that, but hopefully things will. As a Polynesian Eyes podcast, we're rooting for Nico because we want him to do well because it lifts everyone when he does well, when a Polynesian does well. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Here's some comments here that T says, I actually think Nico made the right decision for himself.
Mm,
Make money while he has the leverage. Anything can happen at any point. The money he's making now with NIL is already enough to change lives. I don't disagree with that at all, T's. And I wouldn't be against it if it ends up being true. It's all about the money, right?
mm.
I mean, especially if they're thinking, hey, I didn't even have a good O line. I didn't even have some real receivers.
I'm the reason. It's
I'm the
actually because
reason.
quarterback, a
Yes.
quarterback is one of those positions that it's
Makes or
make the
break.
playoffs. Make the playoffs or no.
Yeah. So I think I'm aligned with that. T also says bet on himself, make money now, go to another college, proves his worth, and then make money on the next level as well. 100%.
Mm,
You never know. You're gonna get hurt. Something
yeah.
else happens. You just never know what's gonna happen. So I think we're aligned on there with that.
I just had
Go
a
ahead,
thing to
Masi.
it. It makes sense why, because he wasn't trying to go for the money. Because if he was really going for the money, like a lot more money, he would have had a landing spot because there will be another team willing to offer to pay for his skill set. But because he hasn't landed, and now the university is ruining his reputation,
That's a
like now
problem
he's
if
gonna
that's
make a
true.
lot less money than what he was making at the University of Tennessee, because the University of Tennessee has come out kind of attacking him and his image and
Reputation,
his reputation, that he's gonna be hard for him to, if he does go to another, like a Power 4 program school, won't probably get as much money. So it makes sense to it, because if it was for the money, we all know with these agents, and you have other people that can speak on your behalf, which you're saying you're not um uh, was it tampering or whatever they kind of use, you can always get some other deals here and there from your kind of entourage. But because he didn't get one, it wasn't about money. It sounds like what you were saying to indicating this was a disagreement, maybe with some play calling, some personnel on the field, and also maybe the offense they were running. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think you're kind of I think you're convinced me to that could be the issue.
yeah, and I mean, this is a natural progression because this happens at the NFL, right? Some guys, some QBs are not happy. They're not getting the weapons. They're not getting the offensive line recruits, and
Yeah.
sometimes this happens. But this is
Mm,
just a natural progression with all that money going in on NIL. So, but I'm 100% agree with you, Masi. Is we hope he does well. This is important. Hopefully,
mm.
Nico finds a place to land and he does well there because just like every other Polynesian, when they do well, it does well for the Polynesian group overall.
Yeah.
So looks like we have Chiefs. Let me see here who just joined us. Before we go that far, we have a couple people here. We want to welcome to Ro Niwa.
Bro, new
Appreciate it.
Malo
We
new.
have Nasir Claude says Malo Ngotama. Welcome, Nasir.
Hey, malo.
And Moe says, "What's up, Tonga kids?" Malo Moe.
What's up? What's up?
Okay, Mussy, this one. Read this one out loud and welcome, Chiefs. Obviously, Chiefs has a different opinion. This is why, before I hand it over to Mr. Atero, this is the beauty of the Kava session.
Mm.
Everyone, bring your ideas, throw it in the Kava Ball arena, and let's see. Looks like Chiefs is coming in with a new technique, a new style. His
All right.
idea, his
All right.
idea is proposing a more sophisticated approach. But kind of
Oh,
read that off
oh.
for us, Masi, and let's dig into this a little bit.
All right. So this is one of the comments from Chiefs. We ha moa sero Tonga. We came together with the ha Tangaloa, ha Maui, and us ha moa. Okay. What do you think, Tua? What do you think of Chiefs' comment there? That's what he thinks.
Yes. Well, that my first thing is let's just assume this is true, right? Let's just say, okay,
Yeah.
if this is true, we understand what the Tangaloa brought to the table, right?
Yep.
They were the kingly line. They
Yes.
brought the structure of government, how to run a civilization, how to
Yes.
organize it, and how to lead it. We have the Maui, very tied to navigation, fishing. Basically, this is
The
kind of
Kai
like
Vai.
the
Deal.
yes,
Mm.
this is the industrious group, right? They had
Yes.
a lot of knowledge where
Ufunga.
they
Ah,
did Dufunga and Fatongia. Some
yeah.
people call it Fatongia. We also had the Ha'ataula, which was the religious group, right? They
Yeah.
brought the religion, organized religion, how that fits into society. What did the Ha'amoa bring to the table? I don't know,
Mm.
right?
And that's a question, right? And that's a question we can
That's
ask
kind of a
Chief, and he
question. I
can.
mean,
Mm.
I have no real understanding of that. Um, but what I think is interesting is if the Ha'atangaloa and the Ha'amaui and the Ha'amoa came to Tonga from Ha'amoa, where are the ruins of this? Why is there a
Mm.
Ha'amonga on Tongatapu? And why is it the Langis, where Tangaloa quote unquote lived, are built
Mm.
in Tongatapu? Why? I mean, that's kind of my initial thoughts there. There's some more comments we can bring to this, but any other to add to that, Masi? But it looks like there's a few more statements or claims that Chiefs makes.
Yes. Well, and that's a good one, Tua. I think that's the question I would ask Chiefs is what did the Ha'amoa actually bring to the Polynesian nation? Because right, Ha'amoa is just an identification of a group of clan that settled in Upolu, Savai'i, Tutuila, Manua, kind of, maybe that kind of clan. Because the Tangaloa, we kind of mentioned the 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 Ha'ataula, they're responsible for the Lotu, right? The
Mm-hmm.
Lotu. Tangaloa, like you mentioned, they're the ones in charge with with the government structure of the nation. And not only that, there's evidence of the ruins in all over Tongatapu, all over Tam, all over Tongatapu with the residents of the Langis. Then the Ha'amonga Maui, right? That's with the Maui. So that's evidence why we say those are the founding fathers. Um, and Lotu, when we talk about Lotu with the Taula, that's a common word in Polynesia, especially with Samoa too. They say Lotu still, right? That's kind of what they still refer, and that's a evidence from where it started with the Ha'ataula being in Tongatapu, the caretakers of bringing ancient religion. So that would be our question. What did the Ha'amoa bring? Chiefs, if you can comment and let us know and give us your evidence, that would be helpful.
Yes. So let me try and open up something here. Here's another statement here. Masi, if you could read that out and give your initial thoughts while I pull this up.
Go for it. All right, this is Chiefs again commenting. I'm not lying, Tongan style. That's why it's named Tonga South. LOL. All right. So my thoughts there is that's been a common argument that we've kind of seen is they're using the islands as the cardinal direction of why you know Ha'amoa is in the middle. So that's kind of where it started, and Tonga being south, and then Lalo Tonga being a certain south. But remember, Tonga is not the cardinal direction, especially when you're traveling and navigating. You're not if you go directly south, you can actually miss Tonga. If you let's just say if you're going from Savai'i, you're gonna miss Tonga if you just go south, and it's it's not a precise location of just using that as Tonga being south that it can't be the origin of the Polynesian nation. And if you take Tevita Fale's understanding and the Polynesian viewed the world upside down, which Tonga was at the top, right? At the cardinal direction, which is and how they viewed the Polynesian islands, and that's why New Zealand, Aotearoa, was kind of the last place to be settled because there wasn't any place that was kind of behind Tonga because it was so cold. But
Mm-hmm.
every parts of Polynesia was settled. The furthest going all the way from Vaihi, which is Hawaii, and then the Polynesian settling New Zealand. So that's just kind of my understanding. I don't know if you had anything else.
Yes. I'm going to pull up this real quick. And I think you mentioned the part that I want to focus on, right?
Mm,
There's two things I want to focus on because we hear this argument, and I think I'm really grateful Chiefs is on here, right? Because we hear these positions every 5 seconds on social media. And these are ideas. This is why it's important to, and I'm very grateful Chiefs at least showed up here.
yeah.
Chiefs, if you want to join us, we can talk through this even on live here, but at least you showed up here in the chat to discuss some of these things. So the funny thing is, like Masi, you were saying, the whole reasoning behind this is, because Tonga is south of Ha'amoa, and then there's Tokelau to the north, and Ha'amoa is in the center. You're basically saying that every capital or origin or center, geographic center is the origin, right?
Mm,
We look, I would say like the probability of that happening everywhere. Look at the United States. Washington, D.C. is all the way on the East Coast. With that
yeah.
kind of logic, the capital should have been in the Midwest, right?
Mm,
If we look at in Samoa, is Samoa in the middle of all the islands of Ha'amoa, the Apia?
no.
No, I would probably say it's highly unlikely that it's at the quote unquote center geographically. Even
Yeah.
New Zealand, right? Do you see this picture right here? Even New Zealand, what the capital is here?
Yep. The tip
Yeah.
of the bottom tip.
That's kind of close. Well, that's kind of close to the middle. So I guess that kind of makes sense. Australia, Fiji, not necessarily in the middle.
Yeah.
You go to
Yeah.
Australia, it's on the eastern coast, not in the center of the desert. So I just want to say that this oversimplistic idea that just because Ha'amoa is kind of in the middle and there happens to be a place called Tokelau and a place called Tonga, that somehow that is an indicator. Oh, correlation does not mean cause and effect. That's my first thing. The next thing is to go along with what you said.
Mm-hmm.
When the Polynesian Empire first started, we have to look that it was mostly like right here first. This is relatively accepted. We can kind of include Fiji in there,
Yeah.
but it's right here. And like you mentioned, Tonga was the furthest south, right? That was the
Mm-hmm.
cardinal direction. Nothing was really much further south than Tonga. That's why it's called Tongatapu. One could make the argument that they're at the youngest stage of the growth of the empire. You have Tokelau North, that was maybe the northernmost part of the
Mm-hmm.
oldest part of the civilization and the southernmost. But here's the unique identifier. What was the name of the main island that the Tu'itonga lived on? Tonga Tapu,
Mm.
the sacred or the forbidden. Now, a lot of people in Ha'amoa try to challenge that by saying, and honestly, I don't know where this comes from, but they say that Sa is sacred and Moa or something is central. I was like, guys, this is like the Pulemele mound, right? Nobody had that definition of quote unquote Samoa. You were always called Ha'amoa, you right? And then all of a sudden there's this Pulemele that even the people who lived there their whole lives and grew up, who saw what was quote unquote the
Yeah.
Pulemele, said we never heard that word. This was always called the Pa'atonga,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
the reason why Tonga is called Tonga because it was the southernmost, and then the Tongatapu because that's where Tangaloa lived.
Yeah.
That is where the Tu'itonga resided, and the center, or when we say center, we're not talking about geographic center. We're talking about political power, religious
Yes.
power, and influence was on Tongatapu.
Political
So
political consolation. Yeah.
when I hear, I'm not lying, Tongan styles, that's why it's named Tonga South. LOL. It's like, come on, man. Like, let's get past kindergarten in class 1, right? Like, just because the sun looks like a light bulb doesn't mean it's a light bulb,
Mm.
you know. So that one, that is kind of interesting there. Let's see
Okay.
what else Chief says. We came from the north to the south, Tonga, us, the Ha'amoa, Ha'atangaloa, Ha'amaui. We settled Tonga. What is the evidence for that? There is like little to no evidence, and this is another thing that I find kind of ironic. You know what a lot of people say? Oh, Ha'amoa has all the receipts. You know what all the receipts are? Oral history, which there is a plethora of evidence that oral history is an issue in Ha'amoa because they have a legal system. When you have to have a legal system to navigate your oral history,
Litigate all of that.
litigate that,
Find out
that
what's
should,
the truth.
yes, that should be a red flag. That's like, maybe we shouldn't be just totally relying on oral history. Number 2, they point to someone who wrote down oral history, and somehow just because someone recorded oral history, somehow that became receipts. Just because someone wrote down a Kava story from some kalapu somewhere doesn't make it scientific. All the scientific studies that we have looked at, 99.9% of them, if not all of them, point to Tongatapu as the center of the Polynesian Empire. And I kind of get tired of hearing, bring the receipts. I'm tired of bringing receipts. Just bring one receipt, Ha'amoa, as the sacred center of Polynesia. Bring one receipt, and then I will turn to you like Talakai Faiki and say, Mari Etoa, you brought one receipt to the table. Congratulations. But so far, I haven't seen one receipt. Any additional thoughts, Masi, before I go to the next comment?
No, and just reiterate. I'll just reiterate this: that we've also looked at the ruins in Ha'amoa, from American Samoa to independent Samoa. The only kind of significant ruin we've only seen is the Pulimele, which has a lot of the locals has traced back to being a resident and Tu'itonga being heavily influenced in that area. And some of the other, like the little Pulimeles, kind of like they call it the Spider Mountain or whatever.
Yes.
They that's all indications leads to pigeon snaring,
Mhm.
Seulupe kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that's the only ruins they kind of
Tia
have in
Seulupe.
Samoa.
The name
Yes.
explains itself.
Yeah. So there's really no other ruins that that actually identifies to kind of validate Chief's thing as being the original. Because if you were the original, there would be something in Ha'amoa to say that Ha'amonga Maui, some kind of langi in Ha'amoa, but there's so far we found there's zero. So Chiefs, man, this is the important discussion. Help us to find any other studies that we've missed, but Tu and I have actually been very diligent to try to find some ruins to kind of validate Tui Manua, the origin of Ha'amoa, with some of the ruins there. But we've checked all of them. Purimele seems to be the only significant one. The other ones were just pigeon snaring, and that we all know that was a game played by the Tui Tonga and also by High
Chiefs and
Chiefs.
so forth. Yeah. Malo, Mr. Atero. I want to reiterate that. Like to thank all the viewers, all the listeners on the audio podcast platforms, and really appreciate people sharing the content. It goes a long ways. Like Masi said, we just want to invite more people to talk about this. We notice that certain ideas that are bad, they survive because we don't talk about it enough. And if the bad ideas are given full control, then it impacts us. It'll impact generations from us. And really grateful for Mr. Atearoa's time. It's a labor of love and it takes time and energy. So appreciate his time. And to close, as we always say, guys, stay curious, be bold, and don't be afraid to ask the hard questions. Until next time, peace.
Take care, everyone.
Malo.